We know better from our experience at North Star that most of those women that are on the streets, they work under a trafficker. They have certain quotas that they have to make every night, or they know that if they come back and they don't meet that, one of two things happens: they're sent back out or they're abused and beat up. That is the reality of. So in essence, prostitution is another form of trafficking because they are working underneath a pimp or trafficker and they're being forced to do what they are doing to bring in a certain amount of money. So that is prostitution. I know there's this misconception that people choose to prostitute themselves and want that kind of lifestyle. But from what we have seen firsthand with some of our survivors, they will tell you that that's not the case, that they were forced. And they knew that there were consequences if they did not do what they were told.
Yes.
What makes it different between prostitution and sex? Maybe
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
and then you need to get that stigma out that it's not the same.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
good.
that makes
That's
sense.
really good, yeah. So why don't we talk about the different definitions between sex workers and
Yeah.
prostitution and sex slavery, the stigma that's associated with that. Can you give us a little insight about that? Sure. So prostitution, they often say there's legalized prostitution in very few states, but there is some in the United States. Typically would mean they are freely going on the streets, selling themselves because they are choosing that lifestyle because that is what they want to do. We know better from our experience at North Star that most of those women that are on the streets, they work under a trafficker. They have certain quotas that they have to make every night, or they know that if they come back and they don't meet that, one of two things happens: they're sent back out or they're abused and beat up. That is the reality of. So in essence, prostitution is another form of trafficking because they are working underneath a pimp or trafficker and they're being forced to do what they are doing to bring in a certain amount of money. So that is prostitution. I know there's this misconception that people choose to prostitute themselves and want that kind of lifestyle. But from what we have seen firsthand with some of our survivors, they will tell you that that's not the case, that they were forced. And they knew that there were consequences if they did not do what they were told.
Right.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, in fact, I read a story online, this lady that was in prostitution for 30 years, and she had never met anybody in that field that wanted to be there,
Wow.
out of hundreds of women.
Wow.
I was like, oh,
Wow.
that's mind-blowing.
Sure. Yeah, there's so much, the key element, there's so much mental enslavement, and the mental enslavement is the psychological abuse that these individuals, victims, believe what their trafficker is saying, and a lot of times it's they're not worthy, they're not worth anything other than what they're doing. They have taken everything from them, and so they're actually reliant on their trafficker, whether it be food, whether it be just for anything, daily needs, because they don't get any money from what the buyer actually gives them. All proceeds go back to the trafficker. So they become reliant on them and they start to believe that, well, if I leave, I have nothing, and where do I go? And what do I do? And the mental enslavement piece, because there's so much psychological manipulation, is why you don't see more arrest and things, because it's hidden so well, because it's not visible. It's not visible to the human eye.
Right. Right. The chains are up here.
Yes.
Right.
So what's next on the horizon for North Star Initiative?
Yeah, so North Star, it's been very exciting for us this year because in the midst of COVID, we actually have grown in our numbers of survivors, which has been a blessing. There were a dozen or so other homes within the United States that had shut their doors or were not accepting new survivors because of COVID. We felt a month after everything happened, we prayed about it, and we really felt that God was calling us to bring in these women, to give them an opportunity, because the need is great. And so we are very excited that we are just about at full capacity. And so that means that in the near future, we need to expand. So expansion is on the horizon. Not exactly sure what that looks like yet. We are praying into that. We are asking God, if there's another property that we are supposed to move to, if we're supposed to expand on our property right now. That is something that we are just seeking the Lord and just praying and trusting that God's going to make a way and make those plans known to us.
Wow, very cool, very cool.
And so is there a website that people can donate to? How can we donate for this expansion?
Yeah, so you can go on to northstarinitiative.org and you can click the donate button. There's also information on there about expansion. We'll say what you will see on there is we do have a barn on our property that we have been talking about utilizing that for expansion. So that is something that we have processed. We're just still in the processing phase of is that going to be enough of expansion for us, or do we need to look at something larger scale for long term? Yeah, but and if you're looking at ways to partner with North Star, prayer is really big for us. We ask people to really partner with us in prayer. This is a really dark spiritual battle that we face, and we face it every day. From the moment we walk on site to the property, we see the value and the importance of really praying over the property, because these women come in with some heavy stuff. I mean, we've seen women that have experienced satanic ritual abuse, and so you can only imagine, what comes with that, and the oppression that comes along with us. So we value prayer not only for our survivors, for our staff, for our home, and then even for the future mission, just prayer to continue the mission that God's calling us to, because we believe this is His kingdom ministry, and He's just allowing us to be tools and vessels to see His ministry come to pass and to see His plans come to, So we're excited about that. You said donate. There's also ways that people can volunteer. If they would love to come on site, you can go onto our website as well, and you can fill out a volunteer application. You'll do a volunteer training. And some of those volunteer opportunities look like, coming on site as a group to do yard work. It can be being a guest chef and cooking for our survivors. Teaching a life skills class is another one. And sometimes we just need volunteers to come and sit and be an assistant to the coach, help out with transportation, maybe play games with the residents. Yeah.
Very cool.
And we are participating in the Extraordinary Give this year.
Yes,
so
yes.
that's another way that you can really help North Star Initiative, as we said, because we are growing, there is a need, and so we would love to have people partner with us through the Extraordinary Give.
And that website is extragive.org, is
Yes,
that correct? Okay.
That is correct.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Good. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's
Cool.
it.
I mean, if somebody says, this is great, where do I go to learn more about trafficking? I guess they would start
training,
with NorthStarInitiative.org. It's a good place to just learn more about
We
this.
have a lot of resources on there. Not only do we talk about what we do at the harbor, but we talk about human trafficking, sex trafficking. So there is an educational piece on the webpage as well.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. So they can start there.